Hello and welcome to our midweek reflection. We are back this week after a break for Holy Week and those incredible Stations of the Cross, which so many of you have said you appreciated. So huge thanks to everyone who were involved in that, particularly Robert, who was director, editor, cameraman, prop guy, etc. But we hope you got something from those recordings. And then last week we had a break after Easter, so I hope you used it wisely. I certainly did, and I'm hoping some photos are about to ping in your direction, because I had a few days away now that we're able to, with a friend and their dog, and I got to walk the Talabonk Canal with a couple of others, social distancing. I went to Carrick-Kennen Castle for the first time, and that's not easy for me to say, though I do love alliteration. Incredible castle, beautiful. I loved it. Not only is it one of the locations used in the film Pride, one of my favourite films, but it's just like a fairy tale castle location. Anyway, I thought it was amazing. And I even got sun-kissed on the Gower as we walked through sunshine and sleet. Crazy weather. Anyway, that was last week. Now I'm fully back, as my inbox tells me, and I threw myself back into it Monday evening when we had our final double vision of the current season, and it was a corker. So a huge thanks to Llywelyn ap Gwilym and our own Ray Vincent, who led us in our discussions about patriotism. You can look at it on YouTube. There might be a link around here. If not, just go to our YouTube channel and you'll find it there. Because we were talking about the perils and the pitfalls and the positives. Wow, not just the perils and pitfalls, but positives of patriotism. Whilst Peter Piper was picking a peck of pickled peppers. Is that a peck? I've never thought about that before. What is a peck? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Anyway, and so we were thinking about patriotism and nationalism, if there's any difference, what they mean, and what's our response to those ideals as Christians. And it was a really interesting evening. A lot of different views were shared, and some of it was quite challenging as we wrestle with the fact that whether we have a bit of a dark future ahead of us, as pockets of fascism can be glimpsed again across Europe and the UK. And part of it was much more positive, as we were thinking about how we can enable Wales and the UK and the world to become more prosperous and fair and sustainable and kind. I love that word. Those words were from Llywelyn's book, The Black Book for a New Wales. I should have had it here really to show you. So there was a lot of thinking of what a post-COVID society could look like. And that reminded me that one of my very first reflections here was thinking about, I think it was March last year, when we had no idea how long this was going to last, whether we were going to be in our homes for a couple of weeks and then it would pass or not. I remember wondering out loud, as I tend to do here, waffling out loud, whether this could be a time to pause and to think that the initial lockdown could be compared to like a Sabbath, a time of enforced rest and reflection and renewal, and for us to even think about whether we would emerge from lockdown in a better way. And again, I think I use the analogy, as many have done, of this time being like a cocoon, a liminal space before we emerge again. Well, obviously, more than 12 months later, we might have different views about that. Some of us might still say yes, absolutely. We can use this time for good, and others of us will be still hurting from the losses we've encountered this year. But in my more hopeful times, I'm trying to look for a different word than hopeful. I am positive. I'm hopeful that we might emerge from this with a little more kindness, a little more connection, a little more gratitude. We'll still have the wounds, but perhaps good will come from this time of difficulty. If so, it wouldn't be for the first time, because it was in the shadow of the Second World War, as the spirit of despair and division hovered over Europe, that these soggy isles chose hope over fear and compassion for others over self-interest and life over death, as the age of healthcare for all was born, as the NHS was founded. And this was, of course, in no small part to Nye Bevan and his desire to Tredegarise the rest of the UK. So from that time of hurt and loss and darkness came the beacon of light of the NHS. And it was around the same time that the British and Irish churches decided they wanted to come together to help refugees, the refugees that had been displaced by the war. And eventually that group coming together wanting to help out those most in need became Christian Aid, which continues to celebrate its 75th anniversary this year. And of course, since its early days, has continued to pray and campaign and fundraise and partner with local organisations across the world in their aim to end poverty and injustice worldwide. No small aim there, and why not have big aims? So, for our reflection this week, for our encouragement, our challenge, our invitation, we want you to start thinking of how you could raise awareness and/or money for Christian Aid. We've got ideas up our sleeves, we've got services on our minds, plus some Christian Aid ones. We'll give you the information for nearer the time. And we've got some other ways you can donate. We might have that in the newsletter this week. But for now, we just want to encourage you to start thinking, are there 75 things you could do to raise money or awareness for Christian Aid? I know 75 might seem a lot, or for those of you over 75, it might not seem much at all. But here's some ideas. Perhaps you could walk 7,500 steps and get sponsored for it. Or perhaps you could take 75 photographs and just send them to friends, one at a time, maybe not all 75, with a message of connection and more than just love, a message of encouragement. And you might say it's Christian Aid Week coming up and just mention that. You might choose to bake 75 cakes, or more likely for me, to eat 75 cakes. You might want to crochet 75 hearts. You might want to collect 75 stamps, hop 75 times on both legs, do 75 Sudokus, whatever it is. We encourage you to start thinking. What thing could you do, collect, share, sell, eat, bake, grow, that represents the 75 years of Christian Aid? And if that feels overwhelming, here's a reminder, you don't have to do it on your own. You could do it with a few friends. You could do 75 laps of the park, but share that with a few other people. You could, I'm trying to think of 75. My mind keeps going to food, which might tell me that it's time for me to get more food. So yeah, do it. Think about it in individuals or groups, but it's to raise awareness and money. To start thinking about that. You can tell I'm out of practice with all the waffle, and that my blood sugar is probably low. So I won't go on anymore, but we'll end with a Christian Aid prayer. Creator God, you loved the world into life. So forgive us when our dreams of the future are shaped by anything other than glimpses of a kingdom of justice, peace, and an end to poverty. Incarnate God, you taught us to speak out for what is right. Make us content with nothing less than a world that is transformed into the shape of love, where poverty shall be no more. Breath of God, let there be abundant life. Inspire us with the vision of poverty over, and give us the faith, courage, and will to make it happen. Amen. So, go well this week. Start dreaming, thinking, imagining, planning 75 things that you could do on your own or with friends. and we'll see you next time. Bye for now. God bless.